The morning sun poured through the blinds of my mother's old colonial in Pineview Estates, like it was trying to pretend everything was still normal. I was Sarah Bennett, 28, fresh off 6 years grinding at a big city finance firm, and I just launched my own consulting side hustle when my phone buzzed with that name I hadn't seen in months. Barbara Kensington, HOA President Extraordinaire. Sarah, darling, it's Barb. We have a tiny community matter that needs your immediate attention. 1 hour at the clubhouse? Her voice dripped with that fake sweet syrup she reserved for people she was about to bury. I should have hung up right there, but the mention of community tugged at the memory of Mom, the woman who'd fought every absurd rule Barb ever invented until the day her car mysteriously veered off that straight suburban road. Fine, I'll be there, I said, already feeling the noose tighten. Pineview Estates looked like every Instagram-perfect neighborhood money could buy identical lawns, edged to military precision American flags, at exactly the regulation 3-foot height, and not a single political sign, because Barb had banned them all except the one she liked. The clubhouse smelled of fresh coffee and passive-aggressive air freshener. When I walked in, the board was already seated 12 of them in pastel polo shirts, clutching their little rule books like Bibles. Barb sat at the head of the long oak table, silver hair, helmet perfect, her pearl necklace gleaming like a crown. Sarah, sweetie, you made it, she cooed, standing to air kiss my cheek. Everyone, this is Laura's daughter, the one who's finally come home to honor her mother's legacy. The room murmured approval, but their eyes were all calculation. I kept my face neutral the way Wall Street had taught me never show the sharks you're bleeding. What's this about, Barb? I asked, sliding into the chair she'd saved for me, right across from her. She slid a thick document across the polished wood the way a dealer slides a winning hand. Just a simple temporary proxy agreement, darling. The state attorney general is sniffing around our little HOA over some ridiculous discrimination nonsense, and we need unified voting power to present a strong front. Your mother shares her property voting block represent the swing vote. A 90-day proxy, that's all. You'll keep full ownership, of course. The lawyer to her, right, a weaselly guy named Mr. Hargrove with wire-rimmed glasses pushed the stack closer. Standard boilerplate, MS. Bennett, purely administrative. I flipped through the pages, legalese swimming, but my finance brain caught the red flags immediately. Page 7, buried in a subsection about emergency stabilization, gave Barb authority to reallocate dues, restructure covenants, or even initiate foreclosure proceedings if she deemed it necessary for neighborhood stability. This isn't temporary, I said, tapping the clause. This lets you sell my house out from under me if you decide my rose bushes are the wrong shade of pink. Barb's smile never wavered. Oh, Sarah, you're being dramatic, just like your mother. Laura always overthought things too. The room chuckled politely, that special HOA laugh that meant you're already the villain in their story. I felt the weight of their stares the same way I'd felt it at Mom's funeral when Barb had whispered to everyone that Laura had been difficult right up until the end. I stayed calm. I need time to review this. Barb leaned forward, her voice dropping to that intimate, concerned tone she used when she was about to knife you. The Attorney General deadline is tomorrow morning, sweetheart. Jobs aren't at stake here, but property values are. Thousands of families depend on Pineview staying pristine. Her assistant suddenly appeared at my elbow with a fancy pen. The choreography was flawless, every board member leaning in just a fraction, sensing weakness. Just sign it, Sarah, Barb said, eyes soft as a shark's. Trust me, have I ever steered this community wrong? The question hung there, laced with every fine she'd ever slapped on Mom for a blade of grass 1 millimeter too long, every anonymous complaint that had driven my mother to tears. My hand hovered. Something was rotten, and every instinct screamed run, but running had never worked in Pineview. Instead, I flipped back to page 3, spotting the poison pill that would let Barb waive my right to audit any actions taken under the proxy. I smiled sweetly. This section here, it grants you total control over my inherited voting rights without oversight. That's not administrative, Barb. That's a dictatorship in pastel. A muscle twitched in her jaw, but her voice stayed honey smooth. Standard language, darling, nothing more. I flipped further. In this clause that expires in 24 hours, if not signed, why the rush? The Attorney General doesn't set HOA paperwork deadlines. The room temperature dropped. Board members exchanged glances. Barb's mask cracked just enough for me to see the desperation underneath. Sarah, the community needs unity now more than ever. Your mother would want us standing together. The mention of Mom tightened my chest. Laura Bennett had built this house with her own hands, fought the HOA's absurd rules until they wore her down. Her death, the single-car accident on a road she'd driven 1,000 times, had never sat right with me. I'll need my own lawyer, I said, standing. Barb's smile thinned. Of course, but time is of the essence. As I walked out, I heard chairs scraping urgent whispers behind me. My phone was already dialing Ethan, my old law school friend who'd gone into estate and real estate law. Ethan, it's Sarah. I need you to read something right now. While I waited in the parking lot, Barb's assistant hovered nearby, pretending to water flowers, but really making sure I didn't leave. Ethan called back fast. Sarah, this isn't a proxy. It's a full transfer of control. There's a hidden addendum referenced on page 12 that lets her liquidate assets tied to your property if any compliance issues arise. They didn't give you the addendum, did they? No. Get out of there. But security, too, bored retirees in golf carts had already positioned themselves by the exit. I walked back in calmly. I want to see the addendum. Hargrove's face went pale. I'm not sure what you're referring to. Section 12.3b references pre-existing community obligations. What obligations? Barb's facade finally shattered. Your mother made certain promises before she passed financial guarantees that could sink the entire HOA if called in. I'm trying to protect you from that burden, sweetheart. She invested in some community projects, used her voting block as collateral. If creditors find out you control it now, they'll come after your house personally. This proxy protects you. It was a smooth lie wrapped in concern, but I'd seen Mom's old emails. She'd been documenting Barb's selective enforcement, the way dues disappeared into Barb's personal slush fund, the anonymous complaints that always targeted single moms or anyone who dared plant the wrong flowers. Show me the documents, I said, pulling out my phone and discreetly hitting record. They're confidential, Barb snapped. Then I'm not signing. I want my own legal review. You ungrateful little, the words slipped before she caught herself. Sarah, please, the community needs this. Your mother would want the same line they'd used at the funeral. My mother would want me to read every word she taught me that. I locked eyes with every board member. I'm sure you all understand due diligence. The meeting ended in awkward silence, but I knew I'd bought time. By the time I reached Ethan's office in the next town over, I'd already started connecting dots. The state investigation wasn't random. There were whistleblower reports about discriminatory fines, Barb's husband getting no-bid contracts for neighborhood landscaping, and worse, rumors that Mom's accident had been arranged after she threatened to expose the books. Ethan spread the documents across his desk. This is serious, Sarah. If you sign their version, you lose everything your mother's house, your voting power, even the right to appeal. But they're desperate. We can flip this. His eyes lit up. We modify it, create a reciprocal clause. If evidence of misconduct surfaces, you gain emergency control of the entire board. We buried it in the same obtuse language they used. We worked through the night with his colleague Sarah Kim, a corporate fraud specialist. The new document looked identical, same paper stock, same watermarks, even the same tiny ink smudge on page 5 that Hargrove had made when he printed it. But our version had teeth. One hidden subsection: if criminal activity or fiduciary breach was proven, the signatory Sarah Bennett would assume full executive authority over the HOA. We also added a media trigger clause that would automatically notify local news if the proxy was challenged. This is beautiful, Sarah Kim said. But they'll have lawyers look. Not if we control the timing. I pulled up an old email from a minority homeowner who'd begged for an independent audit 6 months ago. Tomorrow's emergency board meeting is their real deadline. Barb needs my vote to kill it. Ethan whistled. So we give her exactly what she wants, poisoned. We need one more thing, I said. Public pressure. I called Maya, Torres, the investigative reporter who'd been digging into suburban HOAs for years. "Morgan, wait, no Pineview has been on my radar," she said after reviewing our evidence. Selective enforcement, embezzlement of dues, even links to that accident. "If you're willing to go on record when the time is right, I'll have a story ready." "Not yet," I said. "First I signed their document. Then you get the green light." As dawn broke, we had our plan. The modified proxy was perfect. Barb thought she'd won the minute I texted her. "I'll sign, but only immediate board, present, no lawyers, no outsiders." Her reply was instant. "Perfect, darling, see you at 10. If only she knew whose empire was about to burn. The next morning, I stood outside the clubhouse, the modified document tucked in my leather portfolio. Ethan had used a forensic printer. The paper matched exactly the watermarks, aligned, the font kerning identical. Unless someone read every line, they'd never spot the changes. "You look tired," Barb observed as I entered. She was alone as promised, standing behind the big oak desk that had once been Mom's when she briefly served on the board before Barb pushed her out. "I hope you haven't lost sleep over a little paperwork." "Just making sure I understand what I'm signing," I said, angling the portfolio so she couldn't peek. "You mentioned criminal liability yesterday. What exactly has the HOA done?" Her face stayed neutral. "Nothing we can't handle provided we present a united front. The state is fishing for headlines, another suburban scandal. And the complaints about selective enforcement? The way dues vanish into landscaping contracts awarded to your husband?" A flicker of surprise crossed her features. "You've been doing your homework. I'm my mother's daughter. She taught me to understand what I'm investing my home in." "Your mother was brilliant," Barb said carefully. "But she was also idealistic. Sometimes in a community, you have to make difficult choices. Every rule has exceptions. The question is whether the neighborhood benefits outweigh the inconvenience. And who decides that? The homeowners or your personal slush fund?" She sighed, moving to the window that overlooked the perfect lawns. 300 families live here, Sarah. Their property values depend on us. If we report every little complaint, the state pulls our charter, and everyone loses equity." "Little complaints?" "Ethan says there were hundreds of thousands in missing dues." His shoulders tensed. "Ethan who? You involved? That ambulance chaser?" I needed real advice. "No, you needed to trust your HOA president." She turned back, wounded disappointment painted across her face. "Everything I've built, everything I've sacrificed has been for this community, for you, including your mother." The question hung like a blade. His face went through several expressions before settling on indignation. "How dare you?" She would have never approved hiding the books. She would have blown the whistle herself. I pulled out the original document she'd given me. "Is that why you need my signature so badly?" "Because her voting block comes with moral obligations you can't meet." She walked back to her desk, composure returning. "Your mother's block could destroy this HOA if exercised recklessly. I'm trying to prevent that. By taking it from me, by protecting you from decisions you're not equipped to make." She pulled out her copy of the proxy. "Now are you going to sign this, or do I need to explore other options?" "What other options?" "There are ways to challenge your inheritance, your mother's mental state, before her death, the validity of her will." I didn't want to go down that road. "But if you force my hand," the threat was clear. "Sign or lose everything in a legal battle I couldn't afford." "I'll sign," I said, reaching into my portfolio. "But I have one condition." Her eyebrows rose. "You're hardly in a position to negotiate. I want a seat on the board. If I'm signing over voting control, I want to understand what I'm supporting." She laughed, actually laughed. "You want a position? After walking away from all this years ago, I want oversight, at least an advisory role. If you're protecting me, let me learn why." She considered, probably thinking it would be easier to control me from inside. "Fine, we'll create a position for you. Special advisor to the president." "Happy?" "Yes." I pulled out our modified document, keeping movements casual. The pages looked identical down to the Pineview Estates letterhead. I had Ethan review it last night. He made some notes, but said it was legally sound. "Notes?" Her hand extended. "Just language clarifications, nothing that changes the intent." I flipped to a middle page, pointing to an unaltered paragraph. He suggested this section about fiduciary responsibility was actually in my favor, protecting me from personal liability. Barb relaxed slightly. Lawyers making minor notes was normal. It would be suspicious if I'd accepted without review. Where do I sign? She pointed to the flag signature page. I picked up her Mont Blanc, the same pen Mom had once gifted her for 10 years of service. My hand moved with practiced confidence. Sarah Bennett. There's a notary waiting outside, she said, reaching for the phone. Her assistant entered with a nervous young man who verified identities, witnessed the signature, and stamped it. The whole process took less than 5 minutes. Congratulations, Barb said, once we were alone. You've made the right choice for the community. I hope, so I watched as she locked the document in her desk safe. When does my advisory position start? Monday. Patricia will set you up with credential system access. Full visibility? That's exactly what I was counting on. As I left, my phone buzzed. Ethan texted, document filed, backup secured. We done it. The modified proxy was now legal and binding. Barb thought she'd trapped me, but she just signed her own pink slip. Patricia caught up in the hallway. Barb wanted me to give you this. She handed me a shiny new board badge. Special advisor to the president, it read. She had it made yesterday, Patricia whispered. She knew you'd sign. Of course she did. Barbara Kensington always thought she was 3 steps ahead. But this time I was playing a different game. The boardroom was packed when I arrived at 11:45 for the emergency meeting. Barb stood at the podium, radiating confidence. The minority homeowners clustered nervously while her loyalists dominated the seats. She caught my eye and nodded a queen, acknowledging her reinforcement. Ladies and gentlemen, she began before we addressed the motion for an independent audit. I'm pleased to announce that Sarah Bennett has joined our leadership as special advisor. More importantly, she's granted me proxy over her inherited voting block, demonstrating unified community commitment. Applause rippled through her side. The minority looked crushed. Robert Klein, who'd called for the audit, stood up. With respect, this seems rather convenient. Your new advisor's vote tips the balance just hours before we vote. My decision was made independently, Barb replied smoothly. Sarah, would you like to address the board? This wasn't planned, but I stood. Thank you, Barb. I signed the proxy this morning because I believe in transparency and accountability. Her smile flickered. Those weren't the words she expected. In fact, I continued, moving toward the podium. I think Mr. Klein raises valid concerns. An independent audit would show Pineview has nothing to hide. The room erupted in murmurs. Barb's face darkened, but she couldn't contradict me publicly. However, I added, watching her relax slightly, I trust Barb's judgment in timing such an audit appropriately. Perhaps next quarter, after the state review concludes. It was the perfect compromise. Nobody loved it, which made it perfect for me. The minority saw a potential ally. Her loyalists heard me backing authority. The motion on the floor is for an immediate audit, Barb said, regaining control. With the proxy in effect, I vote against it with the combined voting power. The vote failed as expected, but I'd planted seeds. Several board members approached me afterward, surprised at my measured tone. That was quite a performance, Barb said, once we were alone in her office. What are you playing at? I'm not playing, I'm protecting our interests by not appearing hostile to transparency. The minority were already suspicious. Now, they think I might be their bridge. She studied me for a long moment. Perhaps you did inherit more than your mother's house. Very well. Patricia will show you to your new office. My office was 3 doors down from hers, full network access as promised. What Barb didn't know was that Sarah Kim's husband, a cybersecurity expert, had prepared a USB that would quietly copy every file while I logged in like a good little advisor. Over the next 2 days, I played the perfect new board member, attending meetings, reviewing reports, learning the official story. But every night, I met Ethan and Sarah Kim to review what I'd really found. The evidence was damning. Emails about adjusting complaint logs, memos about managing state expectations, financial records showing dues funneled to Barb's husband's company. But the smoking gun came from Mom's archived files still on the system. Look at this, Ethan said, pulling up a document dated 2 weeks before her death. It's a draft complaint to the state attorney general. She was going to expose everything. My hands shook as I read Mom's words, documenting the falsified books, the bribes, the way Barb had harassed her into silence. The last line chilled me. I fear for my safety, but the community deserves truth. She knew I whispered. She knew everything. Sarah Kim said gently, this suggests Barb had motive till I know what it suggests. We need proof she acted on it. My phone rang. Maya Torres. Sarah, I just got a tip. The state is raiding the clubhouse tomorrow morning. Someone leaked that documents might be destroyed. That's impossible. No one knows unless Barb suspected. How long do I have? Raid at 6 a.m. Whatever you're planning, do it tonight. I looked at Ethan. The reciprocal clause, can we activate it? He nodded. The evidence is clear, but you'll need to invoke it in front of witnesses, preferably the full board. Then we need an emergency meeting tonight. Barb will never agree. She will if she thinks she's controlling the narrative. I texted Barb. Urgent, found something in Mom's files that could help at the state. Need immediate board meeting. Her reply was instant. My office now. Sarah Kim said we'll prepare the filing. The moment you invoke it, we submit to the court. I grabbed the USB with Mom's complaint and headed back. The building was empty, but lights blazed in the boardroom. Barb had assembled her inner circle. Sarah, she said, as I entered, what did you find? I held up the USB. Mom's draft state complaint. She documented everything. Her face went pale. That's impossible. I destroyed, she caught herself. Destroyed what, Barb? The room went silent. Board members shifted. We need to discuss privately, she said. No, the board needs to know. Mom was going to expose the dues, embezzlement, the selective enforcement, all of it. Your mother was confused, she said quickly. The stress. She was murdered, wasn't she? The accusation landed like poison gas. Several board members stood, distancing themselves. You're emotional, Barb said, but her voice had lost its power. I know exactly what I'm saying, and more importantly, I pulled out the modified proxy. I know what you signed. What are you talking about? She snatched the document, her eyes scanning frantically. This is the proxy you signed this morning. Read section 7 subsection C paragraph 4, I said calmly, watching her face drain of color. In the event evidence of criminal misconduct by the primary holder is discovered, executive authority automatically transfers to the signatory. This isn't what I gave you, she slammed the papers. You switched them. I signed exactly what you asked me to sign. A power of attorney. You were so eager you didn't read every word of what you filed. I turned to the board, now studying their copies with alarm. The notarized document is already filed with the state. Ethan confirmed it. Richard Steinberg, the senior board member, stood. Barbara, is this true? Is there evidence of misconduct? She's lying, Barb snarled. This is entrapment. The only fraud here is what you've been doing for 15 years. I connected my laptop to the screen. Let me show you what I found. The first slide showed email exchanges between Barb and her husband discussing how to adjust complaint logs to target certain homeowners. Then financial records of offshore-style transfers of dues. Then the most damning, Mom's draft complaint. Laura was going to expose everything I said, voice steady. She couldn't live with what this HOA had become. And 2 weeks after she wrote this, she died in a single-car accident on a clear day. You can't prove anything, Barb said, but her voice was weak. I don't have to prove murder. The state will when they investigate her death as part of their case. I clicked to Maya's article preview. This goes live in 1 hour. Every local station will have it by morning. Board members pulled out phones, whispering to lawyers. Patricia stood frozen. According to the proxy you filed, I continued, I now have executive authority over Pineview Estates. My first act is to call for an immediate board vote to remove Barbara Kensington from all positions. You can't do this, she lunged, but Richard stepped between us. Barbara, stop. It's over. Richard turned to the board. All in favor of removal? One by one, hands rose. Even her allies couldn't ignore the evidence. The vote was unanimous. My second act, I announced, is full cooperation with the state investigation. All documents preserved, no shredding, no deletions. You're destroying everything I built. Barb's composure shattered. Everything your mother and I created. No, Barb, I'm saving what Mom created for what you corrupted. I texted Maya. Green light. Publish now. Phones buzzed with alerts. Breaking Pineview HOA insider exposes years of embezzlement and selective enforcement. The state will be here with investigators tomorrow. I suggest everyone retain counsel. Those who cooperate will find I'm more merciful than Barb ever was. Barbara sank into a chair, suddenly looking everyone her 63 years. Your mother would be ashamed of you. My mother would be alive if it weren't for you. I gather my things. Patricia, please have security escort MS. Kensington to collect her items. She's no longer welcome. You think you've won? She called after me. You have no idea how to run this HOA. You'll destroy property values, hurt everyone who needs our rules. I paused at the door. The HOA will survive. We'll repeal the absurd rules, settle with harassed homeowners, and rebuild with fairness. It's what Mom would have wanted. And what about me? Your own community leader? You'll face justice, whatever that looks like. I met her eyes one last time. The proxy you wanted so badly doesn't just give me control. It freezes your personal assets tied to the HOA. Your accounts are already frozen. The reality hit her. She'd been so focused on stealing my inheritance, she'd signed away her own empire. Sarah, please. Security will see you out. I nodded to the guards. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a long night ahead. The state will want a complete audit by morning. As I walked to my new president's office, my phone rang. Ethan, it's done. The court acknowledged the transfer. You're officially in control. What about the criminal investigation? With Mom's documents, the prosecutor says Barbara is looking at 20 to life for fraud, conspiracy, and potential manslaughter if they prove the accident. I stood at the window, looking out at the dark neighborhood. Somewhere out there, Barb was being escorted from the clubhouse she'd ruled for 15 years. The empire she'd killed to protect was now mine. Sarah, are you okay? I will be thinking of Mom. Justice doesn't bring her back, but at least her death won't be in vain. The next few hours would be chaos, state raids, media, frenzy, homeowner panic. But for this moment, standing in the office Barb had thought would always be hers, I allowed myself one small smile. She taught me everything about power, control, and manipulation. She just never expected me to be such a good student. The morning arrived like a storm at 6 a.m. Sharp. State investigators and local police flooded the clubhouse. I was already there, having spent the night preparing with the board's legal team. We'd assembled every document, opened every database, and instructed all homeowners to cooperate. MS. Bennett agent Jennifer Walsh from the state approached me in the boardroom. We appreciate your cooperation. This level of transparency is unusual. My mother died trying to expose this corruption, I replied, handing her Mom's original files. The least I can do is finish what she started. By 8 a.m., the media circus outside had grown. Maya Torres was doing live interviews on every local channel, her exclusive having broken the internet overnight. The headline read, Daughter overthrows HOA Karen in dramatic coup after discovering cover-up. Inside, I called an all-hands meeting in the community hall. 300 homeowners attended, in person, thousands more virtually. I know you're scared. I began, looking out at worried faces. Many of you have mortgages, kids' college funds. I want to be clear, the crimes were orchestrated by a small group. The vast majority of you are innocent and your homes are safe. A wave of relief passed through the crowd. However, I continued, Pineview, as you knew it, is dead. We're implementing changes. First, all absurd rules are repealed. No more fines for grass height or flag size. Second, we're establishing a victim compensation fund for those unfairly targeted. Third, every financial record will be audited by independents. Fourth, anyone with information gets full whistleblower protection. My phone buzzed. Patricia, who'd agreed to stay temporarily, texted. Barbara's here with her lawyers, demanding entry. I stepped off the stage and found Barb in the lobby, flanked by 3 attorneys. She looked haggard, her perfect hair disheveled. You can't keep me out, she said. I still own my house. Actually, you don't. I pulled up documents on my tablet. The proxy you filed included asset forfeiture in criminal conduct. Your shares were transferred to the victim fund at midnight. That's illegal. You can't. I can. And I did. You wrote these provisions yourself. Remember? You just never imagined they'd be used against you. One lawyer whispered in her ear. Her face paled further. Furthermore, the state just froze all your personal accounts based on evidence of money laundering. The offshore transfers, the secret accounts, even your vacation home, all frozen. MS. Bennett Agent Walsh appeared. We need to ask MS. Kensington some questions. Barbara, you're not under arrest yet, but I'd advise you to come voluntarily. This is your doing, she hissed at me. You've destroyed our community name. No, Barb, you destroyed it when you targeted my mother. The accusation echoed. Homeowners had gathered someone definitely recording. I never, she started, then stopped, lawyers signaling silence. The brake line, Barb. Investigators found evidence of tampering. Mom's car serviced at a shop tied to your shell company 2 days before the accident. The mechanic just agreed to testify for immunity. This was news to her. Her legs buckled. Agent Walsh stepped forward. Barbara Kensington, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit manslaughter, wire fraud, and violation of state regulations. You have the right to remain silent. As they cuffed her, she looked at me with rage and disbelief. I'm the president. How could you do this? The same way you did it to your own community. I watched them lead her away, cameras flashing. Goodbye, Barbara. The lobby erupted in whispers. I turned to the gathered homeowners. The Kensington reign of fear ends today. This HOA will be rebuilt on fairness and genuine care. Anyone who can't commit should resign by end of day. Richard approached. The board is meeting to ratify you as president. No opposition. What you've done saved us from destruction. It's not saved yet, I replied. We have years of damage to undo. My phone rang. Ethan Maya's second article dropped. It includes 17 homeowner testimonies, but highlights your reforms. Property values are actually stabilizing. Investors believe in your leadership. I walked to the executive office. In the reflection, I saw Mom's determination. Patricia caught up. There's someone here. Says she was your mother's assistant. A woman in her 50s stood holding a box. Dr. Janet Chun. I worked with Laura for 15 years. I've been hiding these documents since her death. Her real financial audits, the actual books. She made me promise to protect them until someone could use them to make things right. Inside were years of genuine records, breakthrough community proposals Barb had buried because they didn't line her pockets. Your mother was working on fair dues structures, affordable maintenance alternatives. Dr. Chun explained. Barbara killed the projects because they threatened her control, but with this you could bring her vision to life. I held the files like sacred texts. Mom's true legacy wasn't the house or the fight. It was the fairness she tried to bring. Dr. Chun, how would you like to be our new compliance director? Her eyes filled with tears. Laura will be so proud. As the sun set over Pineview, I stood in what was once Barb's office, now stripped of her vanity plaques. Tomorrow would bring more challenges, lawsuits, the task of rebuilding trust. But tonight, I'd accomplished what I set out to do. The proxy she tried to use as a weapon had become the tool of her destruction. The emergency board meeting convened at 3 p.m. Every seat filled, stakeholders virtual. Richard called order. We're here to vote on Sarah Bennett as president following Barbara's removal. Before we vote, I stood. I want transparency. Pineview will take losses as we settle claims and rebuild. We'll probably see property values dip short-term. Anyone wanting to sell should do so now. No one moved. However, I continued pulling up Dr. Chun's proposals. Mom left us a roadmap to redemption, fair rules, accessible maintenance, and decisions for homeowners, not profits. It won't make us the richest HOA, but it might make us the fairest. All in favor? Every hand rose. Motion carried. Congratulations, MS. Bennett, you are officially president. Applause filled the room. Through the glass, I saw homeowners watching, some crying, some cheering. Maya was live from the lobby. In an unprecedented turn, Sarah Bennett has been confirmed completing a stunning reversal that began with Barbara's attempt to steal her inheritance. My phone buzzed. Barbara denied bail, flight risk. Below it, another headline: Pineview HOA stock, values rally on Reform News. Patricia knocked. There's something you need to see. She led me to Barb's private safe opened during the raid. Inside, among documents, was a small box. Mom's wedding ring and a letter dated a week before her death. My dear Sarah, if you're reading this, then Barbara has shown her true nature. I've discovered terrible things. I've hidden evidence under Project Veritas. Use it to protect yourself and save the community we built. Courage isn't absence of fear, it's doing right despite it. All my love, Mom. Project Veritas. I searched the archive files. There was gigabytes, including recorded conversations of Barb discussing the fraud. She'd known everything and died trying to protect me. The final recording was the night before her death. Barb's voice. Laura's becoming a problem. If she goes to the state, we're finished. Sometimes accidents happen. Make it clean. I saved everything forwarded to Agent Walsh. This would ensure Barb never walked free. As the sun set, painting the sky amber, I stood in the office looking out at the neighborhood my parents once called home. The office was empty except for one photo I'd placed on the desk. Mom in her garden, smiling, doing what she loved. A knock interrupted. Dr. Chun entered with the team. Sarah, we've been working. If we restart your mother's fair dues project immediately, we could implement within months. It would cost, but do it, I said without hesitation, and name it the Laura Bennett Initiative for Fair Governance. As they left energized, I remained at the window. News vans departing, crowds dispersing. Headlines would fade, but real change was beginning. Homeowners working late, not from fear, but excitement. The toxic culture was healing. My phone rang one last time. Ethan, the prosecutor, called. With the new evidence, Barbara is looking at life without parole. She wanted a deal, full confession, for 40 years. No deals, I said firmly. She made her choices. Sarah, you sure? She is still your community leader. I looked at Mom's photo, thinking of years stolen patients, homeowners who'd suffered for her greed. She stopped being my leader the day she ordered my mother silencing. Let her face the full consequences. As I hung up, the weight crushing me for weeks lifted. The proxy she tried to use as a weapon had become the key to justice. Barbara Kensington had engineered her own downfall. I picked up Mom's picture, holding it close. We did it, Mom. We finally did it. Tomorrow, the real work would begin: rebuilding, healing, honoring her legacy. But tonight, in this moment of triumph, I allowed myself the satisfaction of a battle won, a wrong made right, and a daughter's promise kept. The empire built on lies had fallen. From its ashes, something better would rise. Thank you so much for listening to this story. I'd love to know where you're listening from. Please share in the comments below so we can connect with fellow listeners around the world. If you enjoyed this tale of justice and HOA drama, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and share your thoughts on Sarah's journey. What would you have done in her situation?